Hey everyone, I'm Matt Moran. I'm a songwriter and performer based in Los Angeles, California. And I've been looking to kind of take my channel in a new or expanded direction. Mostly I've been posting just music, occasionally covers, originals. I'm going to continue doing that, but because I'm sometimes asked to either present or speak to songwriters through Songs Alive and other organizations, I thought I might share some of the information about the things I do to kind of promote my music or to make myself performance ready, or some of the recording ideas I try and use. That's something I've worked on a lot this last year. And in this particular video, I'm going to talk about creating what I'll call a residency of sorts, or a workshop gig. And all that really is a way for you to move from maybe playing less frequently than you'd like to, or maybe just playing open mics and moving to doing full gigs, so playing for a couple hours. So I'm going to share some thoughts on that. If you feel you're ready to do that, then great. I'm not a big fan of doing open mics, I'll be honest. I did them when I started, and I'll explain a little bit of that story, because I played at an amazing open mic when I lived in Arizona when I first started performing out, and that was hugely influential and impactful for the kind of performances that I learned to do, just making me ready to play music. And so it's kind of like an incubator of sorts, and we'll talk about that. And you can find those in your city, or you may be able to, depending on the size of the city you're in. I'm in Los Angeles. I know of one particular open mic out here that probably serves a similar purpose to what the gig I did, or the open mic I did in Arizona. So we'll talk about that. And I'm going to talk about some of the things I do to help make that gig as useful to me as possible. And you take what works for you. If you have questions, I'm happy to address those. I might even make other videos that go into more detail on any of these particular topics. But let's jump into it. So why do you want to do something like a residency? Well, if you have enough music to play, let's say you have enough originals to play 30, 40, 50 minutes of music or more, then waiting around at an open mic where you might play 2 songs and you're waiting for an hour or plus to play it, it's great. There's a little community there, you meet some people, but the reality is, I'm at a point where I'm ready to play music and I feel comfortable playing out. I've performed all over the country at small venues and house concerts, and so I just don't have that much interest in waiting around. And you might be at that point where you're just chomping at the bit to get in front of a microphone. The other thing is having that kind of residency gig, what I call a residency, we'll talk about that, is really a way to just improve your overall performance and also to start to develop a fan base. And that's kind of what we're looking for, is getting our music in front of brand new listeners. If that's important to you, then what I'm going to outline here might work for you. I used to perform a lot. Like I say, I went across country a couple times a year, playing small venues and house concerts. But in the mid 2014-15, my youngest child came to live with me. She attended the performing arts school, and it wasn't really conducive to me taking off for 3-4 weeks at a time to go play music. And so I just focused on raising her and writing music, and maybe working a little bit on my recording, although that's another topic we'll talk about, because I didn't really get hugely serious about that until last October. If one piece of advice, learn to do that sooner than later. So I didn't really get out and tour. She eventually, she grew up, graduated high school, she's moved out, she's married, and so I wanted to start playing out, and right as I started to play out, COVID hit, and that really quashed a lot of the live music. So, once again, worked on other things in my life, and now was at a point where I wanted to start playing out. We were looking around for local venues, places near our house. When I say local, I want it to be within 5-10 minutes of my house. And really, there weren't a lot of places. And then there was this one place we'd go to, a pizza restaurant, and kind of a nicer one, kind of a cool vibe with an outdoor patio. And so I approached them and said, hey, I'd like to play music up here. Do you ever do music on your patio? They have a nice outdoor patio. And there was some back and forth. Took a little while to get a response. That's sometimes the case with venues, just because they're busy running a restaurant. They're not really in the entertainment business per se. And finally got a response, had a conversation, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you come up and play. And we'll talk a little bit about that gig, but what I started doing was playing every 2 to 3 weeks up there and using it as a way to, I called it a workshop or a residency, a way to improve my performance skills. That was the goal. The goal was improve my performance skills and also, get in front of some new listeners. And I'll explain also how we do that. So I'm going to go back in time and talk a little bit about how formative it was for me at the open mic I played at when I started in Arizona. I was very fortunate. I lived in a place called Cave Creek, Arizona, just north of Phoenix. Has a really cool music scene. As a matter of fact, if you go there now, I think there's a place called Johnny's Local. A guy named Mad Coyote Joe is there now, running an open mic, and he was kind of the guy running the open mic that I started playing at a place called Cave Creek Coffee Company. And while I've played a lot of different open mics, Cave Creek Coffee Company was different. The level of talent was higher. It was in a listening room. They were really strict. If you're in here, you're listening to music. If you don't want to listen to music, you can go out in the lobby. And Cave Creek Coffee Company was a coffee house with this little listening room, then a lobby, and then it was attached to a wine bar that was also part of Cave Creek Coffee Company. And so what was cool about that is people who were waiting for the restaurant would come in and listen to the music. And so once again, if they chose to go in there while they were waiting for their table, then they were listening to the music. And so you had a chance to play for an actual audience that was listening, and that's huge. Secondly, there were just a ton of talented musicians there. What was cool about that venue is you'd play the little listening room, and the owner would watch. He'd occasionally come in there and check out the talent. And if he liked what you were doing, he'd hire you to play the wine bar. So suddenly you had a paid gig at the wine bar. And the wine bar was cool. You'd go there and there's 20, 30 people getting dinner, and you'd get dinner and a bottle of wine plus I think like $175. So that was cool. And of course, playing a wine bar, it's not a show about you, so you're kind of background music. I always say that there were some nights where it felt like people were super engaged and they're listening to you, and maybe if there's 30 people there, there's 10 that are super engaged, clapping, all that stuff. Then you'd play 2 weeks later or a month later, and it was like nobody was listening to you. At the end of the night, they'd go, oh, you sounded great, and they'd leave tips for you and all that fun stuff, but you were sometimes like tapping the mic, hello, does anybody hear me? But it was a great way to, once again, just improve your performance chops. But here was what was really cool about Cave Creek Coffee Company, and why it was such an instrumental place for me to learn to play music is they had an outdoor stage, a place called The Camp, where national acts would come through. People like Sean Mullins, Colin Hay went there, and from Men at Work and others. And they would do actual concerts where you bought tickets, and it was a really cool venue. We saw Sean Mullins there several times. If he liked how you did at the wine bar, then you had the opportunity to open for one of the national acts. So I had that happen a couple times where I got to open for an act that was drawing more people, and that grew my mailing list. That was hugely influential, so you got a chance to play 4 or 5 songs in front of an audience as they were coming in, and that has its own challenges, of course, but still, it was a great incubator. Right now, the closest thing I've seen to it is a place out in South Pasadena called Jeweled Universe with Diana March. She is running an open mic there, but she also books full shows there. So if she feels that you can draw an audience, then she'll work with you to put on a full show. And there's just a lot of good, talented musicians there as well. So if you're in the LA area, that's one place to check out. And if you're at that place where you're just looking for open mics, try and find a place that has that incubator kind of feel, where maybe if you're playing the open mic, they might have the opportunity to play a full show at that place. We'll talk about that on another video. So anyways, I approached the place close to me and I said, I want to play music and, looking to do a couple hours of music. Now, here's a controversial topic. I was not looking for them to pay me. I didn't really care. That was the least important aspect of what I was doing. What I was doing was I was looking for a place where I could get my performance chops where they need to be. You see, we all think we're ready to play a live performance, but the reality is, if we haven't been playing regular shows, don't assume you bring as much to the table as you think you do. You want to work on your overall talent. And the best way to do that is a low stress place where you get to play a full set of music. So I'm going to kind of explain how you might approach them and set this up. The first thing is I wanted a place close to me. And so I just opened up Google Maps, and as I was driving around, I started making a list of various places. There was a dive bar near me. I approached them. I didn't really get a response. There was some back and forth, but it just never really worked out. Also, it may not have been the venue I really wanted to play at for what I was trying to do. So one day we were up at this place, Tomato Joe's, up here in Canyon Country. And they had an outdoor patio, and I liked it, and we had been there before, and I just overlooked it. It's kind of in a Target parking lot, unassuming place, but it had a cool vibe inside, neat artwork on the walls and all that stuff, and I said, this would be a cool place to play music. And so I approached them, and like I say, it took a while for the venue to respond, just because, once again, they're busy running a restaurant, not running an entertainment venue. Once we got the response, we just started working out dates that we could play. And so here are some of the things I did to make this as valuable as possible. Things you might want to do if you undertake a similar gig. So the first thing is learn some cover songs. And I'm going to really emphasize this. If you're playing original music and let's just assume your originals are great, because God knows my originals are great, right? That's always the case. But when it comes to new music, people want to be familiar with the songs. And so you want to give original music in small bite-sized chunks and then go to something that they know. And that could be over the course of just one particular show. You know, if you could do a shorter show. Somebody told me once, I said, yeah, it's better to play 30 minutes of original music. And he said, yeah, if you can bring it down to 20 minutes, that's even better. And I understood what he meant, because once again, while we all think our songs are great, people don't know them. And you may have some great songs, but occasionally they're just like every song is a new song that they have to now engage with. And that may be a lot. Usually 2-3 original songs that are great and get their attention. That's awesome. So the nice thing about this workshop gig is I learned a bunch of cover songs. Now there's another reason to learn cover songs. Not just that people engage with those, they know those songs, they're super happy that you did them, you exposed them to something that they remembered from their past. If you do an older song, or to something that's new and up and coming on the charts, then great, they love that stuff. Then when you go back to playing an original, they're ready to hear something that's new that they haven't heard before, and they can engage with you because you've kind of earned the right to show them what you do. The other thing is, I'm a big believer that learning covers makes you a better performer and better songwriter. I always say that when my youngest came to live with me and we moved downtown, she was attending a performing arts school, I gave her control of the radio, and I got super fascinated with Panic at the Disco, with Fall Out Boy, and that made me a better performer, made me a better songwriter. There were things that I got into with those songs that just, and by her running the radio, that just introduced me to music that I probably would have missed. So learn some covers, because that's going to help you just be a better performer, but it's also going to help your audience engage with your original music far better. Remember, you're playing for 2 hours, or a couple hours, whatever it's going to be, 2-3 hours. I really don't even like to go for 3 hours. I typically want to do about 45 to 50 minute sets. That's enough time. What are the things you use this workshop for? One is just your overall performance, your dynamics, how you engage with the audience, remembering lyrics. These are all things that you can use that workshop gig for. Now, I've told this to performers before, I'm not a big fan of having lyrics up in front of you. That's fine if you need them occasionally to glance at them. If you have an iPad, you can do that. I don't. I want to remember my lyrics. Now, I have had times where I've forgotten lyrics, particularly for a brand new cover song I'm learning or a brand new original. And that happens. But the more you perform and the more you prepare for those gigs, the less it happens. And so that's what this workshop is for. It's kind of a low stress way. I mean, I want to give a great performance, but I'm also casual and natural enough to say, okay, I'm going to try out this song, never played it before. And if something goes awry in the song, I tell them, okay, let's go on to something else. And they're very comfortable, very forgiving of that. Nobody's going to, now, don't be making mistakes the whole time. But if I'm trying something new, they're pretty accommodating. And it's very human. If I don't stress out about it, then that's great. My advice is videotape all or much of your set if you can. Just set your cell phone up on a tripod. It's great. This is going to be stuff you can go back and look at. First of all, you may be able to use it for promo pieces, just little bits. If it sounds good and you can do something with it, then great. I've used cell phone video for ads that I run. We'll talk about that in a second. But also, you'll see how you perform. And that can be a difficult thing. Self-assessment is looking at a video of yourself. You'll see, oh, I'm not engaging with people. I'm not smiling. I'm not interacting in a comfortable way. Whatever it is, you'll see it. And that helps you improve. So try and get some video, if not the entire performance. I usually do the entire performance. At least, significant pieces of it. So a few reasons, like I said, a few reasons, both self-assessment and you may be able to use it for promotion. Now what I did is I ran a couple ads. I'd run an ad before I performed, usually 1 to 2 weeks beforehand. Low-cost ad on Facebook, targeted to the specific area I was performing in. That venue as a location, and maybe 10 miles around it. You can do that on Facebook. We'll make another video about that if you haven't done it. Short clips of you performing. Mention the people that you're going to be covering. If you're covering Zach Bryan, that's one of the covers I do, or Morgan Wallen, the country artist. Somebody who came to a show asked me to learn a song, so I learned Zach Bryan's Something in the Orange, and I learned Morgan Wallen's Whiskey Kisses, I think is what it's called. Or whatever. If somebody asks you to learn something, then maybe that's a way to get them to come back and bring some people. And we have had regulars show up, which is really cool. So run a couple ads, 30 seconds, less than a minute. That's all I can tell you, less than a minute. And we'll talk about ads because I actually got some advice from somebody inside Facebook on ads that run better. I write software for Meta, so I had a chance to speak with one of the ad managers, and he used to run a creative agency, and he gave me some great advice on running ads. But run an ad. Determine the frequency that you want to play. For me, I didn't want to play every week. Every 2 to 3 weeks was fine. Now what I would try and do is ensure that I had the next gig scheduled before I was playing the upcoming gig, so that when I was on stage performing, I could tell people, hey, by the way, I'm going to be back here on this date. Would love to have you come out, let people know, put it on your calendar right now, And I'll be pushy in a funny way. I'll tell them, if you could invite 2,000 or 3,000 of your closest friends or whatever, just have fun with it. When it comes to other things that you might do, here's something that I try and do. I try and have a postcard. So here's the current postcard. We're actually redoing it. We're about to do some new pictures. This postcard has a QR code. That QR code goes to a landing page on my website. That landing page is kind of like a follow me page where I have a link to Facebook, a link to YouTube, my newsletter, and whatever the latest blip of information. It's not a wonderfully designed page. It's on my website, which has really a great design, but I'm not worried about that. This is just a way that people at the gig, I can put this on the tables, and I'll tell them, scan that QR code, get on my newsletter, or jump on my Facebook page, or jump on my YouTube. YouTube is really where I want to spend some time and effort. I have another postcard. We're redoing our postcards actually. We're kind of in the midst of getting new pictures done. We'll talk about that in a second. Here's another postcard I did. This was just for YouTube, right? So there's the QR code, takes them right to my YouTube channel. Now, as far as these pictures, this picture is an old picture. It was taken by a guy named Mickey Ye. He photographed my band way back in the day, but it was a nice picture. And then my partner, she's a graphic designer and photographer, so she put the postcard together. This one also designed by Deb, my partner. We're going to make it a little bit brighter, use a color picture here. And then, so what it's got just my website and other information and the QR code. And then on the back, it's got a quote from Music Connection magazine. I got reviewed, so it has a little blurb there. And once again, we're redesigning it, so I'm not sure if it'll be, well, it's going to be quite a bit different, but we'll have some of the same elements. And then I left a space at the bottom for a label, because what I would do with that label is I would occasionally just, if I was playing a performance, if I had something scheduled a couple weeks down the road, I'd put a label here with the QR code that went right to the event page. And I'd say, oh, by the way, right on the back, I'm playing that next show. Click on the QR code, and, whatever, bring up the QR code, and it's going to take you right to the event page, and you want to be there because that's where the cool kids are. So those are the things that I kind of do to help promote those gigs. And it's a great way to take yourself from just playing the, I don't know, we'll call it the open mic, or looking for a gig where you have to go out of the area, or, and certainly here in LA, avoiding all the pay-to-play places where I have to do guaranteed tickets. Rather than me have to guarantee tickets, if I'm looking to build a base of people that are used to seeing me playing, then I want to make it convenient for me and convenient for them. They don't have to buy a ticket. I'll play for tips, that's fine. We've covered any of our ad costs 2, 3, 4 times over just by having a tip jar out there. So I'm more than happy to do that, because once again, the goal for me on these gigs, and what you might want to think about, is it isn't about the pay you're going to make on that gig. That's irrelevant to me. For me, it's about new listeners and improving my chops, becoming a better performer. Now, if you have any questions about any of this, or if you want me to cover a video on creating a Facebook ad, putting together the creative, like the video content, and some of the tips that I got from Facebook, then I'm happy to share that as well. But hopefully, if you're a performer looking to play out more, this is helpful. Once again, just look in your area and find that place where you can partner with a venue to do your own residency or workshop. Hopefully that's helpful. Thanks. See ya.